You don't want to take that lovely quote out of your findings, do you? You just can't bring yourself to delete it. And the thought of doing so makes you feel quite bad, like you're erasing the words of that person. But you've got to cut something out because your findings chapter is just way too long and it's quote heavy. One of the most common challenges for qualitative researchers, especially those working with interview data, is determining how to balance participant quotes with your own analysis. And the tension comes from wanting to honour your participants by including their voices, while ensuring that your analysis remains clear and impactful. One of my degree doctor community members raised a great question about this recently. I'm writing my findings chapter based on interviews with participants. I'm struggling to work out how many direct quotes to include and how much to summarise or analyse myself. The quotes are often total gems and I feel disrespectful for not using them. Let's take a look at what to do if you're in a situation like this. I have 5 strategies that might help you. Oh, and by the way, if we've not met before, hi, I'm Dr. Elizabeth Yardley, and I help PhD students get out of their own way and get their doctorates finished, especially those who are doing qualitative research. I found that students doing qualitative research get really hung up on this dilemma, what to include, what to leave out, whose quotes don't make it into your PhD thesis. And this is because they genuinely care about their participants. Now, I'm not saying that quantitative researchers don't care about their participants, they absolutely do, but it's a bit different with qualitative researchers because they've spent a significant period of time with their participants. They might have hung around with them for hours or days or weeks in the case of ethnographies. You have a human-to-human connection with these people. They've let you into their worlds and you don't want to let them down by taking their incredible wisdom and just leaving it on the cutting room floor. But you can't put it all in. As a qualitative researcher, it's your job to interpret and give meaning to the data that you collect. The quotes from your participants are really important because they add authenticity, they bring their voices to life, they allow readers to engage with the material directly. However, too many quotes can just overwhelm your analysis, and it makes your findings feel more like a transcript than a critical piece of research. At the other end of the spectrum, over-summarising or excluding quotes altogether can really diminish the richness of your data. Because if your chapter is solely your voice and it hasn't got any participant quotes in it at all, you risk losing that depth that qualitative research offers. Striking the right balance means finding ways to let your participants' voices shine, while maintaining your role as the analyst, who provides the larger context and the meaning behind those voices. The major guiding principle is that the quote should serve the analysis. Every quote should serve a purpose in your analysis. And as much as possible, each quote should do one of 3 things. Either illustrate a key point, provide insight into a theme, or add nuance to your interpretation. Rather than viewing quotes as standalone pieces, think of them as a dialogue with your analysis. Let's get into those 5 tips. Number 1, use quotes to illustrate points. One of the best ways to balance quotes and analysis is to use participant quotes to illustrate specific themes in your analysis. Think of quotes as evidence backing up the claims you're making, because the claims you're making, the arguments that you're advancing, have come from that data, have come from those quotes. So it's kind of like showing your workings. The quotes are helping you demonstrate to your reader how you got to those particular themes. Let's take a look at an example. If your analysis identifies a theme of community support, you might write something like this. Participants often spoke about the vital role of community support during their recovery process. As one participant shared, "The support from my neighbours has been the backbone of my recovery." This example is short but powerful. The quote directly illustrates the theme, and it's accompanied by a brief explanation that links it to your analysis. You're not just throwing quotes into your chapter. You're interpreting them and you're showing your reader why they matter. Number 2, summarise where appropriate. In cases where multiple participants have expressed the same feeling, the same sentiments, it can be much more efficient to summarise than to quote each person individually. This allows you to capture the breadth of people's experiences whilst keeping the narrative focused. For example, many participants described feeling isolated during the pandemic, cut off from their usual social networks and routines. Then you can include a single quote that encapsulates this feeling. As one participant explained, "I felt like I was living in a bubble, completely cut off from the world." You summarised a general sentiment here, but you still included a quote to humanise that theme and give the reader a sense of the participants' voices. This strategy also prevents your chapter becoming too quote heavy, keeping the focus on your analysis. Before we get on to tip 3, I want to hear from you in the comments. Are you doing a qualitative study? And if so, have you collected your data yet? Type in the comments to tell me whether you're planning a qualitative study, whether you're in the middle of data collection, maybe you're doing your analysis right now, or you're not doing a qualitative study at all. It would be great to know where you're all at with your research at the moment, so I can make some more videos for you on the specific challenges of those stages. So get typing and I'll look forward to reading those later. Number 3, balance is key. When deciding how many quotes to include, aim for a balance. A general rule of thumb that I've gone by in my own research is to include between 1 and 4 quotes per major theme or sub-theme. This provides enough participant input to support your analysis without overwhelming your voice as the researcher. For example, if you're discussing access to healthcare, you might include one quote highlighting a positive experience and another showcasing a challenge. Some participants reported positive experiences accessing healthcare services. I was able to get an appointment with my doctor within 2 days, which was a relief. However, others encountered significant obstacles, such as long wait times. As one participant shared, "I had to wait nearly 3 months just to see a specialist." Including things like positive and negative experiences adds nuance to your analysis. You're giving voice to your participants, but you're also guiding your reader through a balanced and a thoughtful interpretation of the data. Number 4, consider the flow. Sometimes including too many quotes can disrupt the flow of your chapter and leave it feeling quite disjointed. To avoid this, try paraphrasing some of their responses whilst maintaining the meaning of them. For example, instead of quoting verbatim, "I had to wait 3 months to see a specialist," you could write, "Many participants reported long wait times for specialist appointments, with some waiting as long as 3 months." By paraphrasing, you're able to convey the same information in fewer words, and this can help keep your chapter concise and focused. You can still include direct quotes where they add the most value, but this approach ensures that it's your analysis that remains front and centre, because that's what this chapter is all about. Number 5, respecting participants' voices. Whilst it's important to balance quotes and analysis, there will be some instances where a participant's words are so powerful and so compelling that you've just got to include them in full. When a quote truly captures the essence of one of your themes or one of your key findings, it's worth letting that participant's voice shine through. For example, one participant, a long-term resident of her neighbourhood, shared the profound impact of the pandemic on her sense of community. "I've lived in this neighbourhood for 30 years, and I've never felt so disconnected from my community as I did during the lockdown. It was like all the familiar faces just disappeared overnight. I used to bump into neighbours at the local shop, or we'd chat over the garden fence, but during those months it felt like everyone had retreated into their own little bubbles. Even when the restrictions started to ease, that sense of connection didn't fully come back. People were still wary of each other, keeping their distance, and it felt strange to see someone but not be able to give them a hug or even stand close enough to have a proper conversation. In all my years living here, I've never felt such a sense of isolation. It was as if the physical distance translated into an emotional distance too, and that's something I'm still grappling with now." This quote is longer and it's more detailed than any of the other quotes we've looked at. But it's so powerful because it captures the emotional weight of the experience. It illustrates how isolation went beyond physical distance and how it continued to affect relationships even after restrictions had lifted. When you've got longer quotes like this in your analysis, make sure you take the time to explain why they're significant. For example, this quote encapsulates the profound impact of social isolation on long-term residents, highlighting how the pandemic disrupted deeply rooted connections. Ultimately, it's your analysis that will determine the impact of your research. And while it's tempting to include every gem of a quote, because every quote often does feel like a diamond, it's important to be selective. Remember, it is your job as the researcher to guide the reader through your findings and through your interpretations. Let your participants' words shine through and add depth and add richness, but don't let them overshadow your voice, okay? Because this chapter is about your interpretation, your analysis, your findings. And that can involve some really difficult decisions about what to include and what to exclude. Popping up on your screen right now is another video I think you'll enjoy if you're writing up your qualitative data at the moment. It includes my top tips for a qualitative findings chapter. So if that sounds helpful, go and check it out. I'll see you in there.